I'm delighted to say that I am joined by Fabrizio Romano, our resident transfer guru, and Mike Lahoud to pick through everything that's happened today in a dramatic finish to Group D, which has seen France and Australia advancing, despite Tunisia running Les Bleus very close. So we will get straight into it. Fabrizio, my friend, great to see you again. How are you doing?
All good, my friend. As you mentioned, we are in the final stages of this group stage of the World Cup, and so excited to see the next ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike Lahoud, how are you doing, my friend?
Man, first of all, just sad news, and want to send my heart to Pele and his entire family. Just speedy recovery for him because he's such a soccer icon. We've already lost a soccer icon in Diego Maradona, so these are things not to be taken lightly, especially given their influence and impact on the game. On the soccer front, man, oh man, match day 3 is the gift that keeps on giving. Let's break it down. I can't wait to go into the weeds about this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's quickly hit on that with Fab. I know that our time with you is limited, my friend. So quick thoughts on Group D, the results, anything that you were surprised about. Obviously, we know France getting the draw right at the death through Antoine Griezmann, but Australia beating Denmark. I mean, surely Denmark going out with a whimper like this must rank up there with one of the biggest surprises we've seen so far.
Yes, this is the big surprise, I think. I was not expecting this kind of table at the end of the group, honestly. Of course, with France, yes, and I think it's normal to relax a bit in the final game as they rested some players, as Kylian Mbappé, so it's kind of normal to have this kind of performance, but I'm really surprised by Denmark, honestly. I was 100% sure of Denmark to advance to the next stage. I saw them as big favorites in this group, and to see them with just 1 point is really disappointing, and also surprising to see Australia at the next stage. Congrats to them, because it was a really complicated group, but my biggest surprise is with Denmark. I was expecting them to be probably 6 points at this point of the competition, and to see them just with 1 single point is something unexpected. So this is my point of view.
You've got France, who top the group, 2 wins out of 3. Australia go through with them. Fantastic from Australia to see the way that they recovered after that hiding that they received from France, despite having scored the opening goal. And I don't think anyone predicted that this group would shake up this way. Certainly not, with Denmark, bringing up the rear. That really, I mean, I know we touched on it with Fab, but that really is surprising for me. What about you? What do you make of this? Because despite the fact that we didn't get too many goals in the final games in this group, there's still a fair bit of drama in the end.
This group got put absolutely on its head. The Danes, they were woeful. They were disappointing, especially the trajectory that they had been on. I mean, this was a team that was on an amazing run for the Euros. There was tragedy that struck their team through Christian Eriksen and the cardiac arrest on the field, and they seem to unify and unite in ways that make you want to believe in this Danish team. But the question marks around a striker. Who is a recognizable striker? I think of a guy like Yusuf Paulsen, who, had he been able to play more of a role in this World Cup run, I think he would have been a better addition, the Leipzig man himself. But the Cornelius and Dahlberg, they just didn't have that quality. Cornelius, brilliant season last season with Trabzonspor, missing in action this World Cup, and I think that really hurt them. I also think the injury to Delaney, it forced Christian Eriksen to come further back. Christian Eriksen needs to play higher up the field. He's more of a playmaker, but he needs people and players he can play that final pass into. I mean, this group, it's all about the French, but the Aussies, hey, congratulations to you, Australia. I did not see this coming. I joked on HQ on our betting section that we did that the only people rooting and betting on Australia is the entire island of Australia drinking their Foster's Australia for beer. And hey, what do I know? Drink more Foster's Australia, because you've made a believer out of me. You've made a believer out of the rest of the world. You've done it through hard work. And this is a Cinderella story that came from the World Cup playoffs against Peru.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I was definitely one of those people who was saying before the tournament that, Australia didn't really even have that much of a place at the World Cup, considering they managed to get in by the skin of their teeth. But now when you think back to it, Redmayne's penalty heroics, and suddenly this fighting spirit as well that the Socceroos have managed to, foster. Because let's be honest, I mean, Foster, getting so many mentions today, it's such a very Australian name, whether we're talking about beer, former players, I think we need to recognize as well. I mean, I don't think anyone's
Mm.
kidding themselves. This is not a vintage generation of Australian talent. It doesn't compare with the golden generations of the past when you've had your players like Cahill, Lucas Neal, Brett Emerton, guys like that.
Yeah,
But
Jebniak
you
as
know,
well.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there are so many, quality players who have come and gone for Australia on the international stage, certainly in my lifetime. So to say that this is the weakest Australian or Socceroos squad that I've seen, I feel that's justified. Yet here they are, putting in one of the most convincing World Cup performances, and they've now totally, merited that knockout phase berth that they've got as well. So kudos to them, and let's just stick on France for another minute, because the Aussies did show that France can be got at, very, very early on in that first game. And then Tunisia now gone and done the unthinkable, beaten France, yet they still go home. It feels very much like, Didier Deschamps tried to tinker, with his team, keep players fresh.
Mm.
Understandable to an extent, but then when you see somebody like Eduardo Camavinga, a quality player in real difficulty, trying to play a position that just is nothing like the one that he occupies at club level,
Yeah.
you do kind of wonder if Deschamps has maybe tinkered a bit too much and now potentially knocked a bit of the chemistry, which we were praising, for the way that it's come together over the first two games, especially in the wake of all of those injuries.
Yeah, I understand that some changes when you've already qualified and booked your place, especially given the timing of this World Cup. You want to manage minutes, you want to manage the workload and the energy load of your players, but you cannot make wholesale changes like this. I look back to 2002, Brazil winning the World Cup, landslide performances, their toughest game coming against England in the quarterfinals. But in that last game, I think they played Costa Rica. They gave the likes of a Kaká, but down the spine of the team, the likes of a Kaká, some minutes. Down the spine of the team, though, you still had recognizable players, key contributors that maintain that standard. I think, Tchouaméni should have started and likely continued playing on the way he did. But I just don't. I think you set up the likes of Fofana up for failure if you have him. Veretout, you have Guendouzi playing out of position, playing as a right winger. You have Kingsley Coman, who plays, in a natural position on either side. And then Kolo Muani, who's a young star for, I think, Frankfurt in the Champions League and in the Bundesliga. But there's unfamiliarity. You saw that in the final third. This was a France team that got overrun in the midfield and looked vulnerable on the counter. A lot of Tunisia's chances came down the heart of the French midfield or down Camavinga's side. You set him up for failure if you play him at left back, a position that he's never really played before in his career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, it's important to note that you have Marcus Thuram, who was ill before the game, hence why he couldn't play a part. I think he would have started otherwise. But, it just feels like, especially when you've got some guys like Rabiot, for example, who can be quite flaky, while he's feeling, confident, I think it would have been smarter of Deschamps to keep going with him and to maintain some of that chemistry. I mean, Kylian Mbappe, has sort of had a reoccurrence of an old injury that's nagged him for a few months now. So perhaps it was wise for Deschamps to start him from the bench. But, when you look at some of the other players now who could potentially sort of have their, nose put out of place in terms of their form at this tournament, yeah, you do wonder what impact this might have, on the French moving forward.